there, it's Teacher Jocelyn. So today I have two non-fiction books. That means they're books that are about something that's true. So the first one is Dinosaurs by Gail Gibbons. This book's a little bit old, and so the information is not probably the most up-to-date for people that are big dinosaur fans like myself, but we can talk about that as we go through because most of it's still pretty accurate, pretty good. Dinosaurs lived long, long ago, even before people lived on the earth. They ruled and roamed the land for millions of years. Some were small, others were big, and some were huge. Today, there aren't any living dinosaurs. They died about 70 million years ago. When they died, sand and mud covered their bodies. Millions of years went by and the mud and sand turned into stone. The dinosaurs' bones became fossils. A fossil is the hardened remains of traces of plant or animal life in rock. About 200 years ago, the first dinosaur fossils were discovered. Paleontologists search for more fossils. They dig in rocky ground and carefully chip fossils out of stone. A paleontologist learns about ancient life by studying fossils. By piecing together fossil skeletons, scientists learned what the creatures looked like. Some were huge. They named the creatures dinosaurs, which means terrible lizards. Paleontologists have also learned how dinosaurs lived by studying their remains. They've discovered that not all dinosaurs were terrible, some were peaceful. Ankylosaurus was a plant eater. Spikes and plates were all over its body. Its tail was used for protection against meat-eating dinosaurs. Stegosaurus also ate plants and was much bigger. It used a spiked tail to swing at enemies and had big plates running down its back. Protoceratops and Triceratops ate plants too. They had big heads with shields to protect their necks from sharp teeth. They were about 20 feet long. These guys are a lot smaller. If you ever get to see a Protoceratops next to a Triceratops at a museum, it's a lot different. Iguanodon stood up on its strong back legs and used its spiked thumbs for protection. Iguanodon used its many teeth to crush and chop plants. At first, when they found iguanodons, they thought these things were spikes on the end of its nose, and then they found more skeletons and they realized it was its thumbs. Isn't that neat? We can learn more by keeping on studying. And Anatosaurus used its duckbill to get water plants from swamp bottoms. It was about 14 feet tall and 35 feet long. Whoa, a duck-billed dinosaur. One huge creature was Apatosaurus. It weighed as much as 6 elephants. Apatosaurus used its long neck to reach down under the water for plants. They used to call it Brontosaurus, it says in this book, some of the time. One of the very biggest dinosaurs was Brachiosaurus. It stood about 40 feet tall and was 80 feet long. Brachiosaurus liked eating water plants too. Some dinosaurs ate meat. Pterodon flew like a bird and had enormous wings. It flew low over the water and reached down with its long toothless beak to catch fish. Elasmosaurus was another fish eater. It lived in the water and used its fins as oars. Elasmosaurus had long, sharp teeth. There's a wonderful Elasmosaurus fossil skeleton at our Natural History Museum here in Los Angeles, and it has a baby inside of it. It's amazing to see. Coelurosaurus was a small dinosaur. It was able to run very fast to catch small animals and get away from bigger dinosaurs. Ornitholestes was small too. It was a swift hunter, and it ate any creature it could catch that was smaller than itself. Do you know dragonflies were really around in the time of dinosaurs? Dragonflies are a lot older than us. Spiders too. Some dinosaurs really were terrible. Allosaurus was very big and it had huge mouths full of sharp teeth. Like Allosaurus even ate big dinosaurs like Apatosaurus. They can tell because they found tooth marks on Apatosaurus bones that matched Allosaurus. Tyrannosaurus Rex was the scariest of them all. It was king of the dinosaurs. It was the most terrible animal that ever roamed the earth. Tyrannosaurus Rex stood about 20 feet tall and had teeth 6 inches long, about the size of a banana. It's amazing to think, isn't it? All dinosaurs, big and small, were terrified of T-Rex. Dinosaurs lived on Earth for 140 million years. Paleontologists know that millions of years ago something happened that killed these animals. One idea was that our planet became very hot and the dinosaurs died from the heat. This is where you can tell this book is a little bit old, because now we have a pretty good idea about what happened. A recent theory is that a meteor hit the Earth, throwing dust into the air. We know for sure that that really did happen. The sun couldn't shine through the dust to keep the plants alive, and the planet became too cold for the dinosaurs to live. Paleontologists are always learning more about dinosaurs. They were amazing creatures, large and small. And then there's lots of little fun facts about dinosaurs, shows their footprints, and you can see fossil footprints sometimes too. And from the footprints, they can tell that groups of dinosaurs were walking together as a family and things like that. So neat to learn more about dinosaurs. And I love to read books about dinosaurs. But one of the things that makes me think of is, you notice all the dinosaurs are gone from the Earth. And so it made me think about this book, Lifetimes. And that is a book about explaining what happens when things aren't alive anymore and how come that happens. This is by Brian, Melanie, and Robert Inkpen. So this says, there's a beginning and an ending for everything that's alive. In between is living. All around us, everywhere, beginnings and endings are going on all the time, with living in between. This is true for all living things, for plants, for people, for birds, for fish, for trees, for animals, even for the tiniest insect. Nothing that's alive goes on living forever. How long it lives depends on what it is and what happens while it's living. Sometimes living things become ill or they get hurt. Mostly, of course, they get better again. But there are times when they're so badly hurt or they're so ill that they die because they can no longer stay alive. And this can happen when they're young or old or anywhere in between. How about this butterfly? Do you think it was a young butterfly or an old butterfly? We know it wasn't a baby because baby butterflies are caterpillars, right? It may be sad, but it's the way of all things, and it's true for everything that's alive. For plants, for people, for birds, for fish, for trees, for animals, even for the tiniest insect. There are lots of living things in our world. Each one has its own special lifetime. There's an apple growing. Trees that are tall and strong grow slowly, standing in the sunshine and in the rain. Some of them live for a very long time indeed, as long as 100 years or more, and that's their lifetime. Some trees live for 400 or 500 years even. Amazing. Rabbits and mice grow up in only a few weeks. They go on to live for a year or two, crunching up carrots and nibbling at cheese until they grow old and very tired, and it's their time to die. And that's how it happens to be for rabbits and mice. It's the way that they live, and it is their lifetime. Flowers and vegetables, planted as seeds at the beginning of spring when the earth is warm, grow quickly to live through the heat of the summer. The days pass and they become old during autumn when it's cooler. Then, when winter comes and it gets cold, they die. It's the way they live, and that's their lifetime. Butterflies live as butterflies for only a few weeks. Once they've dried their wings, they flutter and flit from leaf to flower. At first, they're bright and quick, but as time passes, they begin to slow down until finally they can go no further. And they rest for a while, and then they die. And that's the way butterflies live, and that's their lifetime. Birds go up quite quickly too. It's often no more than a few months from the time they hatch until they're strong enough to fly and feed themselves. How long they live after that seems to depend upon their size. Mostly the bigger they are, the longer they'll be alive. That's the way birds live. Some for as long as 50 years, others no more than 2 or 3, but however long, it's their lifetime for each one. Fish swimming in lakes and rivers or in the sea can be so tiny it's hard to tell that they're there at all, or so big that the only way to describe them is enormous. Again, as far as we know, it seems that the smaller they are, the shorter will be their lifetime. But that's how it is for fish. Their lives can be as little as a day or so, or as long as 80 or 90 years. It's the way that they live, and those are their lifetimes. And people? Well, like everything else that's alive, people have their lifetimes too. They live for about 60 or 70 years, sometimes even longer, doing all the things that people do, like growing up and being grown up. Yeah. There's a kid, a mom, a grandma, and a great-grandma, all in one picture. It can happen, though, just as it does with all other living things, that people become ill or they get hurt. Mostly, of course, they get better again, but there are times when they're so badly hurt or they're so ill that they die because they can no longer stay alive. It may be sad, but that's how it is for people. It's the way they live, and it's their lifetime. This guy has a splinter. That's going to get better. So no matter how long they are or how short, lifetimes are really all the same. They have beginnings, endings, and there is living in between. That's how things are for plants, for people, for birds, for fish, for animals, even for the tiniest insects, everywhere. Well, I hope that helps understand a little bit more about what happens to those of us here right now and to dinosaurs long, long ago. See you next time.